Welcome, brave souls, to our scary stories, where the boundaries between the known and unknown blur, and the rustling whispers of forgotten tales beckon you closer. Tonight, we journey into the heart of an ancient forest, where legends intertwine with reality. So, extinguish your lights, pull your blanket closer, and let the shadows of our story envelop you. Deep in the heart of the Pacific Northwest, vast canopies of emerald leaves created a verdant cathedral. The sun's rays, dappled and diffused, scattered across the forest floor, making shadows dance and sway in an ancient rhythm. Carter's heavy boots crunched against fallen twigs and decomposing leaves. The familiar scent of earth and the mustiness of age filled his nostrils, a reminder that these woods held secrets centuries old. Trekking further into this untamed realm, Carter stumbled upon a remnant of another era, a decaying campsite. Tent ropes frayed, metal rusted, and memories buried. There, half buried among the pine needles and underbrush, was a leather-bound diary with a cracked spine and weathered pages. The faintly embossed name read Samuel Owens. Curiosity gnawed at him. The woods, usually full of chirping birds and rustling critters, seemed eerily quiet as he opened the diary. He was acutely aware of the sound of his own breathing and the rhythmic beat of his heart echoing the excitement of discovery. The diary's aged pages were filled with careful handwriting, ink smeared at places, but the emotions on those pages were fresh and raw. Here, in the heart of the woods, Carter connected with Samuel's tale from another age, and he felt as if he was looking over Samuel's shoulder as he wrote. July 15th, 1872, the diary began. Today, I felt eyes upon me, unseen yet unrelenting. I felt a presence, something primal and ancient. As Carter read on, he could hear the winds whispering through the trees, just as they might have whispered to Samuel. Each word made the forest around him seem more alive, more aware. Sarah, a fellow hiker and Carter's closest companion, approached the clearing. "Carter," she called out, her voice breaking the spell the diary had cast. "What did you find?" Handing the diary to Sarah, he replied, "The story of someone who once walked where we tread now. Samuel Owens, an explorer." Sarah flipped through the pages, her eyes widening. This is incredible. His encounter with the protector of the forest. Bigfoot. A shiver ran down Carter's spine. The forest, in its vastness, suddenly felt intimate, filled with memories of Samuel's trepidation and thrill. The trees seemed to lean in closer, as though urging them to delve deeper into the mystery. As the sun began its descent, the forest's twilight transformed the place. Shadows stretched, and the temperature dipped, casting an ethereal glow. Carter felt the weight of Samuel's words, the foreboding and the allure, pulling him further into the green abyss. "Sarah," Carter whispered, eyes locked onto the horizon, where the tree line met the setting sun. "We're not alone here. Samuel's legacy is still very much alive." Sarah, her face reflecting a mixture of excitement and fear, nodded. "Let's set camp. Tomorrow, we trace Samuel's path, wherever it might lead." And as the first stars began to shimmer, the woods around them hummed with age-old tales and the promise of new stories yet to unfold. The forest woke to a symphony of morning sounds as the first light gently probed the woods, filling the spaces between the trees. Dew-kissed leaves shimmered and the world felt fresh and alive. Carter, roused by the calls of distant birds, carefully flipped through the diary once more, each word unveiling more about Samuel's adventures. August 2nd, 1872. The symbols have grown more frequent. Stones placed in patterns and marks on the trees. It's as if the forest itself is trying to communicate. Last night, I heard soft thuds in the distance, footfalls heavier than any man's. Sarah, rubbing sleep from her eyes, joined Carter by the fire. The warmth from the embers contrasted sharply with the morning chill. "Anything new?" she asked, her curiosity evident. Carter nodded, showing her a sketch Samuel had drawn. It depicted a tree with distinct etchings, and nearby, a pile of stones arranged in an arc. Samuel believed these markers were guiding him. "They're not random, they're a path." Determined, the duo packed their camp, ensuring to leave no trace of their presence. The day's journey was clear, to follow the markers and delve deeper into the lore Samuel had chronicled. The sun, now climbing higher, cast longer shadows, and the forest was awash with muted golds and greens. Hours into their hike, Carter, eyes keen, spotted the first of Samuel's markers, an etched tree, its bark scarred with symbols that seemed neither man-made nor naturally occurring. Nearby lay stones, just as Samuel had sketched, pointing them further. Sarah's fingers traced the markings, her touch reverent. It's like they've been waiting for someone to understand, to follow. As they journeyed on, whispers of the past brushed against their ears. The air grew denser and the silence more profound. Here, deep within the forest's embrace, time seemed malleable, bending and intertwining the present with Samuel's age. By late afternoon, they had discovered several markers. Each finding heightened their anticipation. And then, as the sun cast the forest in a tangerine hue, they heard it. A soft, rhythmic thud, heavy footfalls, echoing Samuel's writings. Sarah clutched Carter's arm, her eyes wide. "It can't be," she whispered. But Carter, ever the curious spirit, gestured for silence, his eyes scanning the thickets. The footfalls grew louder, then softer, playing a game of hide and seek with the intruders in its realm. Drawing a deep breath, Sarah mustered courage. "We're here with respect, just as Samuel was," she called out, her voice quivering yet clear. The forest seemed to inhale, holding its breath. The footfalls ceased, and an unsettling calm settled. As darkness began to claim the woods, Carter and Sarah set camp, the unsolved mystery of the footfalls hanging heavily in the air. Wrapped in their tents, they lay close, heartbeat to heartbeat, waiting for the secrets of the forest to unravel further, guided by the Diary of Samuel Owens. In the heart of the night, Carter awoke to a curious sensation, a gentle tapping on the fabric of their tent. His eyes, adjusting to the dim luminescence of the moonlight filtering through the canopy, darted around the enclosure. With bated breath, he listened, straining to decipher the pattern of taps, a code, a communication, a message from the unseen. Beside him, Sarah stirred, her gaze meeting his. Their silent exchange spoke volumes of their shared intrigue and caution. Taking a cautious breath, Carter whispered, "Should we look?" Sarah nodded, her hand instinctively reaching for the lantern. With a soft click, its glow bathed the interior, making shadows leap and dance on the tent walls. Slowly, Carter unzipped the tent flap. The woods lay in quiet repose, bathed in silver light. Yet, there, on the fringe of their camp, stood an array of stones, newly arranged. A deliberate message, mirroring the symbols from Samuel's diary. Drawn as if by a magnet, Carter approached, each step deliberate and filled with wonder. Sarah, lantern in hand, joined him, illuminating the curious formation. It was an arc, but within it lay a spiral, like a fingerprint of the forest. The same symbols, Sarah murmured, holding up the diary for comparison. But what do they mean? As the duo pondered the mysterious arrangement, the nightingale began its melancholic song, notes weaving through the stillness. Carter, feeling a rush of inspiration, opened the diary to a passage dated August 10, 1872. Today, he read aloud, "I made a breakthrough. The spirals and arcs aren't just markers, they are an invitation. The protector of the forest, the elusive giant, wishes to meet on its terms. I must prepare my heart and mind." Heart racing, Sarah looked up at Carter. Could it be an invitation for us too? In the distance, the soft thudding from the previous day returned. But this time, it carried a rhythm almost like a heartbeat, echoing the pulse of the forest, beckoning them. Carter, his voice filled with determination, said, "Tomorrow, we answer the call. For Samuel, for us, and for the heart of this forest." As dawn's first light painted the horizon, the camp was alive with purpose. Amid the towering trees and the whispers of history, Carter and Sarah, guided by a century-old diary, were on the precipice of an encounter beyond their wildest dreams. The morning sun cast dappled patterns on the forest floor, creating a canvas of light and shadow. The air held a vibrancy, a charged energy that sent tingles down Sarah's spine. Samuel's invitation was clear, Carter mused, flipping through the diary's worn pages. To meet the guardian, he followed the spiral symbols, moving deeper into the forest's embrace. Together, hand in hand, they followed the etchings on the trees and the stone patterns that had been laid out for them. Every step seemed to heighten their senses. The rustle of the leaves took on a melodic quality, and the fragrance of pine and moss was more intoxicating than ever. As the duo journeyed deeper, the forest grew more dense and ancient. The trees, grand and old, bore witness to countless sunrises and held secrets in their rings. Sarah, stopping by one such giant, pressed her palm against its bark. The tree's energy pulsed through her, a connection that spanned ages. In the midst of this timeless embrace, they stumbled upon a clearing. The heart of the forest, it seemed. At its center stood a colossal rock, its surface covered in intricate carvings, echoing the symbols from the diary and those they'd discovered on their journey. "This is it, Carter," Sarah whispered, her voice quivering with anticipation. The meeting point. Around the rock, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The earlier dappled light gave way to a soft, even glow that bathed everything in its gentle embrace. Time seemed to stretch and contract, the past and present weaving together. Then, from the edge of the clearing, there was a rustle. Slow, deliberate movements. The underbrush trembled, and emerging from the shadows was a figure, tall and covered in thick fur, its eyes curious yet gentle. "Bigfoot," Sarah gasped, her heart thundering in her chest. Carter, his grip tightening around the diary, stepped forward, a gesture of peace. The creature tilted its head, eyes locked onto the diary, recognizing the bond it shared with Samuel. "We mean no harm," Carter began, his voice steady. "We've come to understand, to connect." Bigfoot, sensing their genuine intent, moved closer, its gaze shifting between them and the diary. A soft, mournful sound emanated from its throat, filling the clearing. Sarah, overcome with emotion, whispered, "You remember him, don't you?" "Samuel." The creature nodded, the weight of centuries evident in its eyes. In that sacred clearing, two worlds merged. Words were not needed. The stories that flowed between them were of curiosity, coexistence, and an unspoken promise to protect the mysteries of the forest. The day waned, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the forest in twilight hues, Carter and Sarah, with the diary as their guide and Bigfoot as their witness, forged a bond that would become the stuff of legends. The night settled around them, the forest's soft chorus of nocturnal creatures forming a gentle backdrop to their surreal encounter. Bigfoot, with a grace unexpected from such a formidable creature, seated itself near the grand rock. It beckoned them closer with a large, gentle hand. Carter hesitated for a brief moment, then opened the diary to a page marked with an old pressed leaf. "This entry," he began, "details Samuel's first evening with you, a night where stories were shared between species. We hope to continue that tradition." With a nod, Bigfoot reached down, picking up a slender branch. Drawing in the soft soil, it began to craft symbols, ones more intricate than those in the diary or on the trees. Sarah watched intently, her eyes tracing each line and curve. "It's like history, isn't it?" she murmured. "A history not written in books but passed down through nature." Bigfoot pointed to a symbol resembling mountains, and then to another depicting a group of similar creatures, a family perhaps. A story began to unfold in the dirt, a tale of migration, of ancient times when the forest spanned entire continents, of families and tribes, and of Bigfoot's kind being revered as guardians and protectors. "They saw you as gods," Carter whispered, piecing together the narrative. "But as the forests shrunk and civilizations expanded, your kind retreated, becoming myths." A sadness lingered in Bigfoot's eyes. The creature drew a symbol of a tree intertwined with a human, a representation, perhaps, of Samuel. This was followed by a depiction of the diary, and, after a moment's hesitation, the figures of Carter and Sarah. Their symbols of understanding, of bridges between worlds, Sarah realized. Samuel was one, and now, so are we. The night deepened, and the trio shared stories, laughter, and moments of solemn reflection. The diary acted as both a guide and a testament to the shared history between man and myth. As the first light of dawn began to break, Bigfoot stood, casting a long shadow across the clearing. It approached Carter and Sarah, placing a hand on each of their shoulders, a gesture of gratitude and camaraderie. With one last look, the creature retreated into the dense thicket, leaving behind a silence filled with reverence. Sarah, her fingers brushing over the symbols now etched in the ground, whispered, "We're a part of this now, Carter. Guardians of a story bigger than us." Carter closed the diary gently, a weighty responsibility settling in his heart. "We'll honor it," he vowed. "For Samuel, for us, and for every forgotten tale waiting to be told." Days merged seamlessly into one another as Carter and Sarah delved further into the heart of the forest, guided by the diary and the trust of the creature they had encountered. Each evening was spent deciphering Samuel's words and tracing their path against the rich tapestry of the forest. But with depth came danger. One late afternoon, as the sun cast long amber rays through the trees, a chilling wind swept through, ruffling leaves and causing Sarah to pull her jacket tighter around her. Carter felt it too, an unease that prickled at the back of his neck. "I think we're being watched," he murmured, eyes darting to the shadowy outlines between the trees. Sarah nodded, her grip on the diary tightening. Not by our friend, but by someone or something else. They pressed on, trying to ignore the creeping sensation of eyes upon them. The once harmonious sounds of the forest now seemed to hide whispered threats. Every rustle and snap made their hearts race. As dusk fell, they set up camp near a small babbling brook, its soft murmurs a comforting backdrop against their growing unease. Carter lit a fire, its warm glow casting dancing shadows around them. Sarah, clutching the diary close, tried to find solace in Samuel's words. But tonight, the forest felt different. It wasn't just the watchful eyes, but something more, a heaviness in the air, a dark undercurrent that hadn't been there before. The fire crackled and hissed, occasionally sending sparks into the night. It was then, in the intermittent glow, they saw them. Figures, human in form but not quite right, standing at the periphery of the firelight. Their faces were obscured, but their intent was clear. "Who are you?" Carter demanded, stepping forward with a protective stance. One of the figures stepped into the light. Not entirely human, its face bore markings similar to those in the diary. Its eyes, dark voids, seemed to pull at Sarah's very soul. "We are the Forgotten," it rasped, its voice like the grinding of stones. "Guardians of the forest's dark tales, and you have trespassed into our realm." Sarah clutched the diary closer. "We're here with a purpose, guided by Samuel's words and the trust of the Guardian." The figure sneered. "Samuel was but a visitor. You seek to claim a story not yours to tell." A tense silence ensued, broken only by the crackling of the fire and the distant cries of creatures unknown. Carter, gathering courage, spoke. "We respect the forest and its tales. We only seek understanding." The figure leaned closer, its cold breath making Sarah shiver. "Then heed our warning. Not all stories are meant to be shared. Some shadows must remain undisturbed." With that, the figures retreated, melting into the darkness and leaving Sarah and Carter with a chilling dread. The weight of the forest's secrets pressed upon them, a reminder of the thin line between wonder and danger. The next morning, the sun's rays broke through the dense canopy, illuminating the remnants of the night's fire. Sarah and Carter, weariness evident in their eyes, silently packed their camp. They exchanged uneasy glances, the warning of the Forgotten heavy in their hearts. As they ventured further, the forest began to change. The trees, once towering and majestic, now seemed twisted and gnarled. The vibrant green foliage turned to hues of dark crimson and deep purple. The air grew colder, and the ground beneath them felt spongy, like it threatened to pull them under. "We're close," whispered Carter, referring to the diary's final location, a long-forgotten cavern deep within the forest, where Samuel's journey had culminated. Sarah nodded, clutching the diary. Samuel faced his fears here. We must do the same. At the base of an ancient, contorted tree, they found the entrance to the cavern. Swallowing their fears, they lit their torches and descended. The cave's walls were adorned with the same symbols they'd seen before, only these seemed to move and writhe as if alive. Deeper they went, the weight of the earth pressing down on them, until they reached a vast chamber. In the center stood a monolithic stone, bathed in an ethereal blue glow. Embedded in the stone was a crystal, pulsating with energy and reflecting the chamber's symbols. Sarah approached it hesitantly, the diary's pages fluttering. As her hand neared the crystal, a rush of memories flooded her mind, memories of the forest, of the Guardians, and of a bond formed over centuries. She saw Samuel not as a mere explorer, but as a conduit, bridging worlds and sealing a pact that had been broken. Carter, witnessing Sarah's trance, tried to pull her away, but an unseen force held them both. Shadows emerged from the cavern walls, forming the figures of the Forgotten. "You were warned," hissed the lead figure. "You have reopened old wounds and broken seals." Sarah, her voice echoing with an ancient power, replied, "We didn't come to break. We came to mend, to understand and honor." A tense standoff ensued, the cavern's energy swirling around them, threatening to consume everything. Finally, the lead figure spoke, its voice softening. The pact was between the forest and Samuel. The diary was the seal, but it has been disturbed. Carter, determination in his eyes, said, "Then let us renew it. Let us be the bridge." The Forgotten exchanged glances. "Very well," said the leader. "But be warned, the bond is eternal." With a nod, Sarah placed the diary upon the monolithic stone. The pages absorbed the crystal's energy, glowing with an intense light. The symbols from the walls merged with the diary, sealing the pact once more. As the light dimmed, the cavern returned to its dormant state, the Forgotten retreating into the shadows. "We did it," breathed Carter, exhaustion evident in his posture. Sarah nodded, gazing at the diary, now forever altered. "We're part of the story now, forever bound to the forest's heart." Their journey had transformed them from mere travelers to guardians of ancient tales. With reverence and purpose, they began their ascent, carrying with them the weight of ages and the hope of understanding. The forest greeted Sarah and Carter with a gentle warmth as they emerged from the depths of the cavern. It seemed more vibrant, alive, and welcoming. Birds sang clearer melodies, and the very air felt charged with a newfound energy. Their steps, though weary, carried a weight of purpose. Their path back was mysteriously devoid of the challenges they had faced earlier. It was as though the forest itself was guiding them, ensuring their safe passage. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in shades of lilac and gold, they set up camp by the same babbling brook they had encountered days before. The water's soft lullaby was a soothing contrast to the echoing silence of the cavern. As the fire danced before them, Carter looked over at Sarah, who was deeply engrossed in the diary, now glowing faintly. "What does it say?" he asked, his voice filled with a mix of curiosity and trepidation. Sarah looked up, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "The final pages. They're about us. Our journey, our choices, even our conversation with the Forgotten. It's all here." A heavy silence settled between them, both realizing the implications. Their actions, their decisions, were not just their own. They were intertwined with the very fabric of the forest, its history, and its future. Days turned into weeks as they neared the forest's edge. The anticipation of returning to their world, to share their extraordinary tale, was overshadowed by an unspoken understanding. The bond they formed with the forest was eternal, and with it came a responsibility. As they stood on the cusp of the familiar world, Sarah turned to Carter, the diary held close to her heart. "We can't share this," she whispered. "The world isn't ready. It might never be." Carter nodded in agreement. "Our journey, our bond with the forest, it's ours to bear. We'll safeguard its secrets, its tales. That's our legacy." But fate had a different design. That night, a chilling wind, reminiscent of their first encounter with the Forgotten, swept through their camp. Sarah woke up with a start, the diary no longer by her side. In its place lay a single, pristine white feather. Devastated, they searched high and low, but to no avail. The diary, their tangible link to the forest's secrets, was gone. Years passed. The forest's edge saw many campers, explorers, and thrill-seekers, but none ventured deep, none but Sarah and Carter. Tales of their extraordinary journey became legend, spoken in hushed tones around campfires, but without proof, it faded into obscurity. Yet, deep within the forest, where shadows whispered tales and ancient trees stood guard, the story lived on. Bound by an eternal pact, Sarah and Carter would often venture back, their legacy forever intertwined with the heart of the woods, guardians of its mysteries, its stories, and its soul. The world outside remained oblivious, but somewhere, in a forgotten cavern, a diary lay dormant, waiting for the next chosen one to embark on a journey of understanding, wonder, and eternal bond. You've treaded the dark and twisting paths with us tonight, dear listeners. We hope our tale has left an indelible mark. For some stories, like shadows, linger long after they're gone. Until next time, remember, not all who wander are lost, but some stories are better left undiscovered. Sleep tight, and may your dreams remain untouched by the Forgotten of the forest. This is our Scary Stories signing off for tonight.